What's up, guys and girls, whoever's watching this live or after the fact? So, yeah, so I'm still working on my thing from yesterday that I started. I've definitely made some progress here, although it wouldn't look like it. There's nothing to see. What's up, Preston? Happy Saturday morning. I should have got some food. I forgot to eat some food. I just took a shower. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do before I go to... I need to go to Home Depot today at some point, I feel like. But I'm not sure what I'm going to get yet. I know some things I need to get, but then there's some things I want to get. And I'm not sure what all I'm going to do just yet. But anyways. So what I've done so far... actually this morning is so yesterday I spent some time trying to look at how to pull this data down from Beckett's website. And so one of the issues, and again, this is more for people that are looking at this from the technical perspective. What's up, Wesley? How's it going, dude? People that are looking at it from the technical perspective. So one of the issues I ran into when I was trying to pull down data from their website is they have a specific I think they have some like security stuff on their side that ensures that like you're not trying to pull the data if you're not coming from their site directly. So, one of the things I ended up having to do was I had to set this host value in the headers before I submitted my request to their site. So they have where you call like, they actually have like methods, these are PHP scripts, I'm assuming. So PHP calls to get the data, and you need to pass it a bunch of values in order to get that data. And so I wrapped this post method, or not post method, but the HTTP web request. So I put set it to post. I also set the content type. I also set the content length. So that was something that I also kind of Googled that seemed to help. Again, I actually made a lot of changes at once, so I don't know exactly what helped make the request work. I just know that I did this. I did this. I made sure I set the host. I made sure that I set the headers, the origin. Now, these were actually buried in their request data that I saw from Google on Google Chrome, so I just basically copied these to make sure that they matched how they're making the request from their own website. The referrer I actually commented out. That turns out that's not necessary, which is good because I'd rather not have to pass that anyways. So that works without that. And then I was doing this before with the cookie. So you basically have to. This will be something that like long term will have to be included in the app somehow, where like I embed like a web view or something that you can log into, and then it pulls the cookies out of that web view somehow. But for now, like I'm actually when I log into the site and revisit the site, there's a few values I have to set manually right now in code to make sure that when I try to pull down the data, it knows that I've logged in. So that's one of the things that I need to make sure that I was doing. And so now I'm getting data back. So Beckett, when you make this call to pull back the data, it actually returns JSON. It returns it in a JSON format. So this is an example of what the data looks like. So this is the JSON it's actually returning. And to deal with that JSON data, I actually added Newtonsoft JSON, the Newtonsoft JSON library to my project from NuGet, and that way I can deserialize that. I created a card raw class, which basically, again, obviously these properties look dumb, but these are the properties from the JSON, and so JSON deserialize method assumes that the class that you're trying to convert that raw JSON to will match as far as like the property names in the JSON have to match the property names in the class. So class, that's why these look like this. I mean, obviously that's not normal, but it is what it is. So it actually returns me, so that allows me to take that JSON data and return back a list of this card raw class, which basically is just like properties with HTML in it. And so the next step I need to do is start parsing. One of the things that I actually learned that exists that I had no idea, and I thought this was like the coolest freaking thing. So in a web, if you use a web view, which again, I'm trying to avoid using a web view in this because web views are ugly. And the code behind that is just nasty. So I was like, hey, I want to be able to query the HTML using selectors, but not use you can do that with web views by invoking scripts against web views and then passing basically a JavaScript selector to the script or to the web view, and then it returns back like whatever data you would get back from that, which is cool. It returns back the HTML. This, on the other hand, I found this library called CS Query. Now, currently, I guess it's not being maintained anymore, but in all reality, this thing works fine for what I needed it for, and so I'm very happy with what it does. So, this CS Query allows you to take raw HTML data, and it basically casts it or converts it to a DOM object, and then with that DOM object, you can basically use frickin' selector syntax to query the DOM just like you would in a regular HTML document, like you would with jQuery. It's exactly the same. So I basically returned back the HTML in order to obtain the number of cards, and actually use this for other information as well. There's a part on the site where I needed to let me see if I can find this. Yeah, okay. So basically, there's a part on the site here where the stat zone shows the total number of cards. I needed that because in order to fetch the data from the server, they only allow you to do it in increments of like 20 at a time. So you basically have to pass them this offset value all the time. And then that offset value determines the next 20 cards you get in the list. So that's basically, it looks like hard coded into that PHP method that I'm calling. So I basically have to then say, okay, I know there's 20 in each request, divide 275 by 20 to get the number of times I need to make that request. I basically round it up so that I basically issue the appropriate number of requests to get the data, and then I'm done. So that's how I will iterate through the cards list. The reason why I had to do that or came to that conclusion is because on this website here, so like on this page, you basically, it gives you the first 20. You'll see if you'll get the first 20 cards, but if I scroll down, it actually makes a web request to get the next 20. And so on. So it will only fetch 20 at a time, and each time each time you scroll down, it basically posts again and say, give me the next 20 and next 20. So it's just basically appending to this table of cards, more or less. So I needed to facilitate that same functionality in here. So what I do is, the first thing, like I said, is I needed to be able to retrieve this value here, the 275. So in order to get the 275, I query the DOM, and basically there's an element with two classes associated to it. Big is way too big brain for my coding comprehension. Well, yeah, I'm just kind of saying a lot, but I'm trying to explain like how I got to where I got to. So you basically select the node that has these two classes applied to it, which is there's only one of them in the document, and then I say give me the unordered list below that. And then give me the list item that contains the value of total cards. And then from there, I say, well, give me the next. Basically, it's saying, give me the next list item after that. So I'm finding the one with total cards, which is this thing here. And then I say, give me the next list item, which ends up being this, the 275 list item. So then from there, I say, okay, from that cards node, the 275, give me the children, give me the hyperlink attribute. And that is the URL that you would click on for the 275. This actually takes you to, oh, right. Okay, so the reason why I needed this was because the set ID exists in there. And the set ID is going to be used for pulling down the data. So again, this needs to be as dynamic as possible because basically this is the URL that I would expect to be entered into the application when you say which set to obtain, which is essentially it's this page here. So the person who's entering the data doesn't need to know the set ID. That would just be weird, and it's kind of hard to find. It's not like it's, so it's in the URL that I can pull out of the HTML on the page. Give me the children. Sounds like my parents when they split up. Wow. Actually, probably not. They'd probably say, take the children. Take these monsters. So then you say, give me the children of the cards node, which essentially is only it's only the hyperlink tag anyways. There's only one child under that. Thanks for that. Yeah, you're welcome. So then the set ID. So this was kind of neat. I actually nailed this on my first attempt, which I was like, dude, how the heck did I pull that off? So basically the logic here is I have the URL, so then I split the URL based on the question mark, which splits that into two array elements. So I say, give me the first element, or basically item 2 in the array, then split that one based on the ampersand. And so there's a multiple ampersands in here, and then I take the first element as a result of that, and then I split based on the equal sign, and then take the second element as a result of that, then convert that to an integer. Now, for anyone who actually understands code, you're like, wait, where's dot convert? Where are you getting convert to N32 from? So one of the things that I like to do, which I feel like is completely underutilized in the .NET framework, is extension methods. So one of the things that I absolutely hate doing is so I realize .NET, they have a convert class, and you can wrap, basically what you would normally do is you would have around this convert.toInt32 and then, open parentheses and then close parentheses, right? I feel like that looks ugly as heck. It's sort of object oriented, but it just kind of looks dumb. So what I like to do is I always like to create extension methods. So I basically create an extension method on the string class, and this basically just wraps the convert.toInt32 and you pass in the value for it. And that allows me to then on a string method or on a string class use my extension method .toInt32. And so it just looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. So for anyone not familiar with extension methods, like extension methods are just neat. They make your code look neat. And that's why I use them. So that's where the convert.toInt32 comes from. Now I could have, sometimes I normally just do like toInt32, but like, again, .convert.toInt32 tells you what you're doing. It's more clear. So that's why. Or you could put a comment above it saying it converts it to an int32. That way when you IntelliSense over it, it tells you what, blah, blah, blah. So whatever. Anyway, so that's how I get the set ID though. So I basically parse the URL that is returned back from the set finding the pulling out the URL. I parse the URL out to get the set ID. And then the number of cards is basically from the number of cards mode, I get the text. I trim it because there's a lot of white space around it. And then I also convert that to an int32. And that's how I get the number of cards. The number of requests then is now basically a matter of, so I do have two N32 here, but that's because I would have to create another extension method around decimal, which is possible, but I just was kind of lazy to do that right away. But either way, so I'm rounding the division of number of cards divided by 20. So 20 is hard coded because, again, the number of items returned from each request is 20. Each request to the server, Beckett servers, is 20 by default. So that's why 20 is hard coded. I could, make that configurable, but for the intent of for testing this out, I just hard coded it. So I round it, that returns a decimal value, and then I have to convert that to an integer because obviously I need a whole number for what I need to use that for. The next thing I was working on was the list of cards. So again, this is not complete just yet. So now that I've got my number of, I know how many requests I need to make to the server. I'm basically going to take the number of requests. Well, it's basically iterate from 0 to the number of requests minus 1. So my number of requests in this case for this particular set would be 14. So I'm taking 14 minus 1, which that would end up being 13. The reason why I'm doing that is because request count starts with 0, because request count is actually being used. Because request count and offset are essentially going to be the same value. Actually, well, no, I take that back. That's completely wrong. Offset starts at 0. That's why. So the offset starts at 0. So basically, that's why it works that way, I believe. I know it worked. So yeah, so offset starts at 0. That's why. Because 0, if I pass it at 0, it gives me the first 20. And then if I pass it a 20, then it gives me the next 20. So basically 21 through 40. And so on and so forth. So the offset, since offset starts with 0, request count starts with 0, and then if I loop, I'm basically still looping 14 times. It's just 0 through 13 instead of 1 through 14. So that's why. Let's see. What else do I need to explain? I don't think anything else. So I already explained the posting thing. And then I'm deserializing the card list into a list of card raw. So again, card raw is my class that I created to hold the data that comes back from the deserialization process. So yeah, so pretty neat. Some other change I actually made too this morning was when you add a node by default, it's just going to expand the parent that you added the node to, because I was tired of it adding it and then showing it. It's basically collapsed after you add it, and so it'll expand it automatically to the area that you added it to. So you can click on it right away, and it just makes it easier. The other thing I wanted to do here though was actually select the node that was added, but somehow you need to, I think you need to find it in the node list or something and then select it or something. Because from what I can tell, I don't see any way that you could actually select it. There's an is selected, but that tells you if it's selected. You can't actually set whether or not it's selected. So I'm not sure how to do that, but I'm sure there's got to be a way to do it. I just didn't want to waste time with it. All right, so either way. So what I'm trying to do next now is, so I've got my card list. I created my card class. And my card class here has a bunch of properties of the card. So I have my card ID and card number. So someone's going to ask, what's the card ID? So Beckett has a card ID, or a way to identify that card on their website specifically. So I'm going to store that, even though actually it doesn't really help all that much, but we'll have it. And that might actually come in. Actually, I know why I have that. So I have that because later on, that's going to be used to be able to update price information after the fact. So I can basically say, in the database, match based on the card ID, and then update the price information accordingly. So card ID will be unique. My understanding from what I've seen is that it's unique overall, not just unique to a specific set. So card ID should be unique to the entire, all card collections across their entire website. This may end up needing to be a long or something like that, or a long, probably, I don't know, or a big int or whatever. the equivalent is in SQL. So I'm gonna have to look out for that. So I have the card number, which again is like the number within the set. And so a card number is a string because a card number isn't actually always a number. It can actually have alpha characters in it as well, or hyphens and alphanumeric characters, basically, with some special characters potentially. The card name would be basically the player name or whatever it is, because I put card name because player name is valid for like sports cards, but player name's not necessarily valid for like non-sports cards. And you have to consider that you have checklists and stuff like that within sets of cards. So the card name could just be like checklist for 1 through 40 or something like that. So that's why I use card name instead of like player name or something like that. And then you have whether or not you have the card. So that would just be a checkbox. Basically, the card quality is going to be an enumerated value, and we saw that here. So card quality is essentially this thing here where you have the drop down of if it is it mint, is it near mint to mint plus, near mint to mint, blah, blah, blah. So it's, that's what card quality is. So we're going to mess around with that in a bit. So then you have the prices for each condition. So this, again, this would be pulled down from the Beckett website directly. This is not something that anyone would be expected to enter. So when someone's going through the list of cards that are displayed and you want to start checking them off and stuff like that, really the only values that you would ever be changing is these two things. Do you have the card? And what's the card quality? You're not going to change the name of it. You're not going to input the card number or the card ID, because again, that's just going to pull it straight from the Beckett website. And so you're not expected to manually add cards. You should never have to manually add a card. It should exist on the Beckett website. So you basically pull down the list of all the cards, and then you go through and determine which ones you have in your collection. And then that's what this whole thing will be for. So yes, I have it, and here's the quality. So I may move the quality over or something. I'm not really sure, but then we can figure that out. So yeah, so that is what a card will look like. And so now I was working on the enum. So I created an enum class that houses my list of card qualities. And so we're going to mess around. We're going to finish this real quick. I actually wanted to translate this to... Right. So these I actually want to look similar to the grid. Oh, you know what? I should have kept that other form open. Yeah, here we go. Hey. Oh. Well... Right, so we don't want price in front of that because that doesn't make sense in this context. This is just card quality. So, but either way, like it's basically the same thing here. So near mint to mint, near mint. So how did we have that look? NM. Okay, so not NMT. Okay, near mint. So there's a method to the madness here, I guess, to some extent. So this is something we're gonna be able to use for the grid. So when someone goes to So this is dual purpose. This is gonna be dual purpose. So we need this card quality for our card class so that we can set the quality here based on what someone chooses from the grid. But then this list will also be used to populate that drop down list in the grid as well. So it's going to be used for more than one purpose. That's why I'm going through the exercise of actually, oh my goodness. That's why I'm going through the exercise of actually doing this. Otherwise, it would just be a waste of time. EX-MT. So these are, again, these are the values. The description will be used ultimately for what's populated in the actual drop-down list. So there's some code that I'm going to use that it's going to be an extension method, essentially on an enum class or object, and you're going to be able to specify to pull this description out. So this is sort of this is a pretty, like, there's different ways that you could do this in the past. Like, I think, you know what? I'm trying to remember. Can you do this in C# now? No, you cannot. So, as most of you know, like, basically, so enums have to be they're numeric values, but they're represented by readable values. So unless I assign otherwise, like, mint automatically is 0, near mint to mint plus is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So in order to produce a readable quality or readable value or string value, some type of string literal value to represent the enum value, that I'm using the system component model that allows me to define a description attribute for each one of these enum values. And then again, I'll have code that will allow me to say, okay, give me the description of excellent to mint, and it will return this. And then that is a value that will actually display in the drop down list in the grid. So it's going to be kind of cool. Kind of cool. Now, for anyone who's thinking, like, well, how are you going to store this stuff in a table? I'm actually just planning on just having, it's not exactly the right way to do it, but it will work because honestly, they're not going to change these ranges. These values or properties are not going to change. Like, they're not going to introduce, it's very unlikely they're going to introduce another way to grade your card. So that's the only reason why I would just create these as columns in a table instead of, essentially creating an attributes table to hold all of them, like, and, using a more vertical table instead of horizontal in the database. Like, that's the only reason why I would use vertical or horizontal in this case. So because the values are they're fixed more or less. All right, anyway, so excellent. VGEX. Okay, very good, excellent. Oh, and if for anyone who didn't know, for enum values, you can actually leave the last value in your enum. You can put a comma after it, even though there's nothing that falls after it. The reason why I have an error here is because there's there's two elements named the same. So once I change that, then that error will go away. So you could technically leave that comma there if you wanted to show, like, hey, there could be more later. I guess it's small maintainability thing, but not that big of a deal. So I think this is just good, right? Or is it actually spelled out good? It is good than poor. Okay. So this one we're just gonna do manually because no sake. Poor. Okay, so this is our enum. So our card quality enum, and we have a value defining each one of them along with a text value to go along with it. So we're good there. Card quality. So we can use that here. Well, actually, we don't need it here, to be honest. So now that we will have our list of raw cards. So this is going to be where we have to. So for each card raw and card raws. Oh. Right. So for each raw card data, essentially, we have to do something. So this, my friends, is where I'm feeling we're going to use an actual extension method to put this code in. I mean, this is going to be probably... I'm trying to think of how I want to do this, actually. Do I want to do it this way? No. I don't know if I want to do that. I could just put it in card. But that's going to be like, I mean, I guess it's possible. We can do that. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is create an extension, or not create a constructor for this thing, for the card class. So in the constructor for the card class, you can pass in the raw card information, and then I can have methods inside the card class that allows me to do whatever I need to do to set these properties accordingly. That's probably what I'm going to do. That's probably what I'm going to do. That probably seems to be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, I think so. So this is not typically the way you do this stuff. So basically, so what I'm gonna do, tease. So for anyone who's not familiar with regions, you just learned about them, okay? So in Visual Studio, you have regions. Regions will allow you to like collapse crap. So if you want to hide a bunch of code, or one, it's to organize it, but two, Visual Studio allows you to collapse it. So that way I can string. This is going to return. I mean, technically, well, no, that's a type, not a property. So string get. No, actually, get card ID from raw. So actually, no, string card ID. We'll just do something like that. So, and for now, to get that error out of there, so like we need to return something from this thing. So now, so what we know is that our card ID is going to look something like this. So what we can do is we can just say like card ID dot split on the colon dot trim. Oh, no. So take the first element dot trim. I think I can specify. Yes, I can. Oh. Params. Oh, so I can specify like actually a bunch of items to remove, but and actually we're not done yet. I forgot one thing. So I'm going to take the first element, which will basically be this value. Well, actually, it'll be this value. So then I want to take that and I want to split that again on the underscore, and then take the first element or second element in that. So that will basically this evaluation will basically return this. So then I need to trim out the double quote. So that will actually, and then since I have a string, I can do convert to N32 and then return that. So that, now granted, you should normally do a lot of this in one operation like that, because if you get an error, it becomes increasingly harder to diagnose problems when you do too much in one statement, but I feel like this should work. So I'm going to split based on the colon, which is going to, and then I'm going to get the first or the second element in the array, which is going to, actually it's going to give me this, this value. So even with the white space, but then from that, I'm going to split on the underscore, which then should give me this. And then I'm going to trim out that, which, so then that I should end up with just this value right here. And then I'm going to convert it to an integer and return that. So, yeah, so we're gonna try this and see what we get here. We're gonna start. So this dot card ID equals this dot get card ID from raw. We're gonna pass it card raw dot result type ID. So result type ID is what that value is. This is a result type ID, this whole thing. I think actually that's a great question. I actually, it may just be this. I don't know. I have to actually try that. And worst, yeah, I actually have to know that. So before we do that, let's figure this out. So you guys can see that this is actually working-ish. All right, so I hate having to move this over. So it basically, right now, it just pops up a collection thing, and I don't have to put any, I'm not putting any URL in there, so you can see it expanded it, has one, I right-click, I choose get data, and so this is the part where it's gonna then go to this code here, and give me my card information. So now I got my raw cards. As you can see, it it's through the first iteration, so it should give me card 0 through 20, and as you can see, Larry Fitzgerald is actually, or sorry, 1 through 20, so, or 1 through 19, right? No, 1 through 20. It'll give me card number 1 is Larry Fitzgerald. So they have the number here, upper deck number 1, Larry Fitzgerald, whatever. So as you can see, let's see, result type ID, yeah, so it's just the actual value. So we have too much code in that other method, actually. So our constructor here actually is too complicated. So we just basically need this. Card ID split. So basically this value is actually gonna return this. And actually it may not even have the double quotes. So because it is the value of it, and so it should not return it from what I remember. So we should be fine. So we're gonna take this value, we're gonna split it based on this, and then you're gonna end up with element 0 is going to be that, element 1 is going to be this. And so I'm going to pull the first element, convert that to an integer, and return that back. So we're good there. And then, so card ID, this dot have card. Oh, actually, we may have to change that. Well, no, that'll be fine because, yeah, this has a very specific purpose. So when we're adding a raw card, if we're using a raw card data to populate this card information, then we don't even know if we have it or not. So it should only be when you're originally pulling down data. If we're updating price information later on, we'll have to do something different. We'll probably have a we'll have a constructor that you pass in like all this or something. I take that back. No, you would just update those individually. So whatever. We'll figure it out at that point. So we'll have we'll figure it out at that point. So we'll set those first. Oh. I just thought of something for card quality. But we'll come back to that. Because I'm not sure. I think it's gonna just set it. Yeah, it would just set it to the first value by default. So that's kind of problematic for us. We don't want to do that. So we have to allow for an empty card quality. You know what? We're just gonna do that now because I don't want to do that later. So this is what I mean by that. So we're gonna have empty, and it will just be an empty string essentially. So empty will be the first option. So that would be that should be the default value is empty for card quality. All right. So then we have card. My card equals a new card. Actually, well, we're going to change this. So now we pass in a card raw. We'll pass in the card raw value, and that will just do what we needed to do. But basically, actually, what I'm going to do is do this. Cards dot add new card. All right. So we'll add a new card. So basically, we're going to loop through all these. We're going to add a new card, and we're going to see what this thing looks like. So we're going to want to put our little breakpoint on this little baby here and see what ends up happening. There's no point seeing this other stuff because that doesn't really matter at this point. You see the code on the screen. All right, so it's pulling the data. Okay, so we have card raw. Make sure we got. Oh yeah, so this is the first card. And here's all the crap that's in it. So we are going to F11 into this. So as you can see, it's calling our constructor. It's passed in the raw card information. We're going to. Okay, whatever. So it's basically going to convert this to a return. Okay, so we can't even see the value yet here, but there's our card ID. So as you can see, it pulled in the right value. So the 5623569. So that is based on this value. So we basically created a constructor method that then uses a private method to convert or cast, however you want to call it, from one data type to another. So it pulls out the information from the raw card and then the raw card data and turns it into an integer that can then be set as part of the properties of a card itself. So yeah, all right, and then have card, obviously that's going to be false, and so we're going to add the new card, and now in our cards list we have a card. Again, as you can see, a lot of these are all 0. That makes sense because we didn't set any of these. Have card is false. We don't have a name or a number yet, but and you see, notice our card quality is currently empty. So that is a valid value for card quality is empty, meaning I haven't selected it yet. So that will be the default option for all cards added. So we know that that's working now. So let's move on to the next thing here. So we need to pull in the card number and name. Now these ones are going to be slightly more complicated, I believe. So if we look at our JSON viewer here, so the card name is going to have to come from this display title property. So the display title property is a bunch of HTML, which I wish, oh God, like it's just so weird that they would return it this way. It's just odd. It's just really odd to me. So, I mean, there may be a way to pull it to get this data where it doesn't return it in this format, but I don't know what that is. And I could probably spend a little bit more time like passing in different values for the return data, but I don't know what the valid values are. So rather than spend time with that, I'm just going to do this. And honestly, it's going to be somewhat easy, I guess, maybe to pull this in. Because I mean, essentially, we're gonna use our CS query to get the data we want. It's gonna be a combination of CS query and just basic C# crap, finding, basically index of. So we're going to use CS query for is to basically say, give me the give me the text value inside the href inside the div. So that's going to be pretty easy. So we're just going to say div and then a. So then dot text dot trim, and that should give us ooh, what the heck. Okay, that's right, I forgot you can actually edit that. So that will pull out this value, which is what we need. I don't care about team or anything else like that. That doesn't really matter. So it would pull out this value here, and then we're gonna have to kind of basically say, give me the part after the number sign until the first space. To get the card number, and then the other part of that would then be the person's name. So there's some work that we're gonna have to do for this to hack this up. Yeah. Then we're not gonna be able to use split for this because, I mean, technically we probably could, and then we could iterate through the array and do some weird stuff. That might be something that could be an option. The reason why I was thinking, because we can split on a space, and that would break this whole string up, and then we could basically iterate through that and say, okay, iterate until I come across the one with the number sign. So it would basically go through each one of these, and then, oh, I found the one with the number sign. So I found the one with the number sign, so I know that's the player name, and then the rest of that, anything else left in that array would then be the player name instead of the and then the number. So that may actually be a kind of a unique way to do it, sort of. But we'll see. Because then you have to iterate through, I don't know. I mean, performance-wise, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. It should be really quick. We're talking about a very small array of items to iterate through, so that should be pretty good. That should be good enough. So we're gonna do that. That'll actually kind of keep the logic easy, in a sense. So all right. So private. What's the next one we want? We want the card number. So that's a string. Get card number from raw, and we want to string card. Actually, so we do want to do that. Return, for now we're just going to say return card number. Oops. And we're going to have to do the same thing for the card name. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call this card number raw. Card name raw, because we're going to have to, oh yeah, that's going to be kind of a, whatever. Card name. So the reason why I'm doing this, like instead of here, like I just use card ID, it's because I'm basically, I can return that in one shot. But this one, these ones here, I'm going to need a little bit more, I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. So we know that so basically this is what we're going to get. We know this is what we're going to get. This. So we're going to get something that looks like that. Well, sort of, but not exactly. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to add using CS query to this thing, which again, so like this is, I guess, think of this more like a UI, like if you're doing actual development, this is more like a front end, like UI, like representation of the back end model. So like you wouldn't do this on the on your actual model class itself. If you're using, like in a more enterprise environment, you would not do this way. I'm just doing it this way because one is just it's a stupid app that's not meant for enterprise usage or anything like that. But normally you would have like a UI representation of your card object that exists in the database, and so that's what you would use that for. But in this case, like my card class is going to be my data object, and it's also going to be my UI object. So I'm not going through all these different layers and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. No one should ever use this for like, or consider some of this code like enterprise level code. I mean, the concepts are, I think, good. That's really one of the things I'm trying to illustrate with some of this stuff too, is just the kind of neat things that you can do to think outside the box and try to keep it as OO as possible. Because really I could create, I could have created a utility class or something to do some of this stuff. But for me, I like to think of like, if I want to create a new instance of a class, and as part of that, I need to basically do some transformation and stuff. Yeah, that could be a utility class, or I could just put it in the class that I'm instantiating, and so like all the logic related to converting or transforming objects to meet the specifications of that class, the target class, then like, you know, just put all that logic in there. So it's just, you know, where it's at, you know, and that way, no matter where you're at, you're not having to look through another class to find some way to convert a raw card to a card. You know, it's inside the card class. So like, just, hey, pass me a raw card. And how long did it take you to completely understand coding? Well, I don't think you ever completely understand it. Like there's always so much more that you have to learn. You know, a lot of it comes with just experimenting on your own. That is like, if I just used what I learned at work, I would not know as much as I do I would not know as much as I do. The only reason why I know as much as I do is because I spend time outside of work, like writing my own websites and trying different things to experiment. And, you know, that's how you grow your knowledge of things. And then at work, like, depending upon what kind of work environment you have, you know, if you're in an enterprise environment, you're going to learn some things that are different than what you would probably do if you were just writing some code by yourself. So like my knowledge of code, like, you know, I know different languages and stuff like that, and you just, you know, you kind of pick up stuff throughout the years, and then you just try to get better at what you know about those things. And sometimes, again, you'll learn about that, you'll do that writing your own stuff, or you'll do that at work, you know, if you have a job that you know allows you to do stuff like this. um Trying to think of a joke for someone. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and do this. So this dot card number equals this dot get card number from raw, and then again card raw dot display title. Yes. So actually, in the case of the card number and the name, they're actually going to pass in the display title. So this dot card name. So for both of those, we're going to pass in the display title, because again, it's the display title is where we're going to have to pull out the number, as we're going to have to pull out the name. So this is going to be cool, actually, I think. So CQ DOM equals right, so we're gonna have to follow what we did here. CQ.create card number raw. So this is gonna create an object for us, or this is gonna basically create an HTML, like a queryable HTML DOM that we can query. So with that being said, now we can say string card number no, we don't want to do that. Card info, we'll call it that, card info. No, card detail. Card info is too kind of generic. Card detail equals DOM. So basically we're gonna say give me the div, give me the link value dot text dot trim. And in theory, what this should provide back, what this should pull out, is it should pull out this. Okay, so we're gonna have card detail. So now we're going to have a card detail bits. I mean, we can call it split, I guess. I mean, We'll call it bits. I don't know, for lack of a better word. So card detail dot split. So we're gonna split now on an empty string. So that then in theory should have. So we're gonna have a bunch of. This is an array. So that's what these open brackets for. It's an array of how many ever elements will be it will be populated with. So in theory, by splitting based on the space, we should get array element 0 should be 2006. 1 will be upper. 2 will be deck. 3 will be the card number. But because the name of the set will be, this will change, we can't just say like give me the 4th element in the array, because that's always going to be the card number. So that, you know, if it was more predictive like that, then we could do something like that, but it's not going to be that predictive, so we can't in any stretch of the imagination do that. Cooking and talk. Oh, you're disappointed you read it as cooking and talking? I'm sorry. Why would I? Okay, why the hell would I be cooking at 10:30 in the morning anyway? Unless it was breakfast, I guess. But I don't really cook breakfast anymore. All right, so basically, here's what we're gonna do: int I equals 0, I less than card detail bits dot length I plus plus. So this is basic looping in C#. So this essentially says it's declaring a variable named I. It's setting it to 0 and then until I is less than the length of the number of values in this card detail bits array. That's where the length is coming from. So the number of items in that array, and you don't say less than or equal to, because I is 0. It's a 0 indexed array. And so, yeah, you'll see. But anyway, so for each element in the array, we're going to do something. And basically, we're going to say if card detail bits I. So for that element in the array, if that value... can I... Ooh, we need to... index of $. Actually, you know what? I think we can do like a string, I believe. Greater than 1 or greater than 0. All right, so this is the way that you say like a string. The string object has a method called index of, where you say, it says reports the 0-based index of the first occurrence of the specified string. So basically I want to say if the array element contains a $, like then I want to do something. So it's going to return a number greater than 0. It's going to return like a 1 basically, or whatever. I think it starts with 1. It's 1 base. No, it's 0 based. I think it's 0 based, right? I can't remember. We'll have to see. All right, anyway, so if it's greater, so if it has a value, if it contains this $, then I want to do something with it. So I need to define string card number. Oh, that's it. That's what I need actually. So string card number. So we're gonna start this out. It's gonna be an empty string. Card number equals card detail bits I. So okay, so there's some options here. I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna be weird. Okay, so this is not. Okay, actually, we can do this, or card number not equal to string. Oh, actually. Card number here, how about this, or not string dot is null or empty card number. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to be very good about our writing code here. So, because normally you can break and do all that crazy stuff, but that's kind of sloppy. So, in a controlled loop, I'm basically saying, okay, until I reach the end of the array, keep looping, or if card number ends up with a value. So, because I'm splitting I'm going to have a bunch of values in here. Once I hit this, then I want to stop looping because there's no point to continue looping because that's all I'm trying to pull out is the card number. And, yeah. I don't think... I'm almost certain I can't do this. Oh, crap. Okay, we can come back to that possibly. We could mess with that and see what we get later on. But this is the simple way of doing that. So I forgot there is a different way that we go about doing this. That's actually slightly simpler, but it takes requiring another aspect of the .NET framework. So this is in simplest terms. This is essentially what we want to do. So we want to pull the link. And with that link, we want to split it based on the spaces, or we'll split the value from the link with the spaces. Then we're going to iterate through all the bits. And once we find the one that contains the pound sign indicating the card number, we're going to pull that whole value. We're going to set that value in the card number variable, and then we're going to return it. And then we'll stop looping. So... Let's have some fun with this and see what this does. We're gonna take out the card name because there's no point, and well, I guess it doesn't really matter anyway. So we're gonna stop it after this, so we can leave that in. All right, so let's run this, and we're gonna see how this works. So when it comes to here, we should stop here. We might stop in that other loop. Yeah, because I did that. So we're going to stop here now. Okay, so card detail, see that? Okay, so this is what we wanted. So we have, in our card detail, we have the value 2006, upper deck, Larry Fitzgerald. We're going to go ahead and split that based on the space. So now our card detail bits, you notice now we have a string length or an array of 6, 2006, upper deck, number 1, Larry Fitzgerald. So we're good there. And so now we're going to keep looping until we actually hit that card that contains the number sign. So as you can see, it's skipping over it, skipping over it, skipping over it, skipping over it. Okay, yeah, so I screwed that up now. So what we can do actually is we're going to take this back up here. We can actually start over. So here's the mistake that I made. So index of, I believe this will return. We're going to add this to a watch, actually. So this is one way that you can actually make use of Visual Studio, which is kind of neat for anyone who's not used to debugging. See, it's -1, and that's the problem is that, so usually if you're looking for a value in a string, you're not necessarily expecting it to start at the 0 position, but index of returns -1 if it doesn't find a value. And so actually, so that's what I was kind of hawing about earlier. So as you can see, it's still -1. It's still -1. Let's see. See, okay, there we go. So now it's 0. And the card number technically is... So card detail bits I... If we hover over this... Oh, you know what? Didn't this change? I thought they showed... it's basically third, so it should be showing us number 1. And so it is actually finding that. But the problem is I need to do this. Actually, I could do this. Greater than or equal to 0. So basically, if it's greater than or equal to 0, then we know it found it and it'll return our card number. So we know that's going to work because we did that like that. Okay, so there's a different way to do this. If I can remember how to do it, then I will be amazed. So you can loop through and do it that way. That's one way. Or card number equals card detail dot. Wait, I'm trying to think. No. Card detail bits dot where. I'm trying to think that this is actually gonna work. Oh, well. This is going to be interesting. I don't know if this is actually going to work the way I think it will. So this is a shorthand way of doing it. So .NET Framework has a library known as Link, and Link is basically a query language that exists in C# to some extent. So like if you're dealing with arrays of any type, you can actually apply Link expressions to them. So I'm saying in the card detail bits array where the value contains a £, give me the first occurrence of that in the array and return that string as my card number. So that is kind of an easy way to do it if that actually works. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to test this out to see if this works, because then I can take out all that looping logic. But that is just a way to show you that in the .NET framework, there's actually more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. If this doesn't work right away, then I'm just going to skip it for now, or I'll comment it out and then we'll move on. Okay, so as you can see, card number is number 1. So essentially, instead of writing all of this code here, this for loop, basically the .NET framework has something built in for me that I can just essentially do the same thing, and it doesn't take nearly as much code. So that is something worth noting. That is something worth noting there. So essentially, card number is that, and actually we're just going to go ahead and go bloop and take this crap out. So yes, easy peasy. Now, this other one is going to be different. So the other one, we're actually going to need this logic because, right. Yeah, I know why. We're going to need this other logic because we're going to just need it. Yeah, I'm actually kind of getting a little hungry myself. I was supposed to go to Home Depot. Sorry, someone had a question for me. Okay, so anyways, all right, so this is what we're gonna do for the card name. So I'm gonna go ahead and I don't need this logic up there, so I'm gonna comment that out or remove that altogether. And okay, so this case we actually want we don't care about the card number really, but we do care about where it's located. We could end up having some problems with this, but we'll have to. I think we'll just have to deal with that when we come to it. So what I'm gonna have to do is identify where the why are you tall? I don't know. I don't know. So we're, oh yeah, okay. I know what we're gonna do. So bool is hit card number equals false. We'll just call it that, I guess. Hit card number. So we're gonna have to do something like this. Hit card number equals true. Else if hit card number. Okay. We don't care about this. So we don't, so in this case right now, we don't care about, yeah, we need to take this logic out as well. So now we basically have to loop through the array. So we're gonna basically set a bit or a Boolean value, which Boolean is essentially it's just yes or no. It's basically the result of a question almost. So did I hit the card number? I'm setting that to false by default. So I'm saying no, I did not hit the card number. So I'm gonna have this list of bits, and again, the list of bits are these bits of pieces of the whole string. And take the logic out, something EA never had to do because they never had logic. I agree. So so what we're gonna do is we're gonna iterate through the bits again. So we'll go 2006 hit card number is still gonna be false. So we're gonna loop through again. Then we're gonna hit upper, then we're gonna hit deck, and then we're gonna finally hit the card number. And when we hit the card number, we're gonna set that hit card number to true, so that the next time I come around, I'm gonna say yes, I did hit the card number, and then I know anything after that card number is gonna be pieces of the person's name. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have string card name. And we are going to say card name equals card name plus the bits plus a space. Wait, no. Right. So we'll have to do this. If not string that is null or empty card name, then we want to do this. So we want to concatenate a space in front of it. Else. So usually the way that you write code is there's certain cases where you write things different, but certain cases you normally want to write your code in a way where the operations that you're expecting to be hit the most frequent is the first thing you're evaluating for, so that way your code doesn't, so that from a processing perspective, so from the CPU perspective, it's not having to go through all these different logic iterations to finally get to the point where, honestly, I miss watching you play Roblox. I don't know why. It brought a lot of joy. Oh, well, one day we'll probably go play some Roblox again, for sure. But yeah, so you usually want to make sure that the logic that you're hitting the most often is the logic you're checking for the first. So that way it basically will say, okay, I met that condition. Okay, go ahead and do this. As opposed to, did I meet this condition? No. Oh, did I meet this condition? No. And then finally, did I meet this condition? Yeah. So it has to check a lot of different stuff to finally get down to the point where it actually does something. So the code that you execute the most often, you want to make sure you try to hit first instead of last. That's like more of a performance thing. So I'm basically saying, okay, if I hit the card number, then if the card name is not empty, so it's not this, then I want to go ahead and I want to have a space in front of the value that I already have and then append this value. So I'm going to start with JP, and then it's going to come around again and say, okay, yes, JP already exists there. So now I'm going to put in Lossman, but I'm going to put in a space before it, before I do that. And then once all that's done, once it's done iterating through, then it's going to return the card name, right there. And then, so we'll have the card name done. So let's go ahead and put a breakpoint on this mofo. And when we come back to debugging this, we should end up with 3 properties that are set appropriately by the time we go to set this have card value. So technically, I don't think I have to set this have card value. So the card ID is what we expect it to be. The card number is card number 1. Oh, you know what? Actually, we should remove the number sign. The card name, as you can tell, Larry Fitzgerald, card number 1. So that is exactly what we wanted. So we parse out the card name successfully. So have card, yeah. So we didn't technically need to set this to false. So if you don't set a Boolean value in C#, by default, the value is false. So technically, we don't even need to set this. Sometimes you do it just for clarity purposes, so that's the reason why you would do it. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and remove that. So our card, get card number from raw and get card name from raw, get card ID from raw, those are all working as expected, pulling out the values. And actually, we saw the card number. We want to actually, let's go ahead and trim out the number sign from that. We do not want to return the number sign as part of the card number. So the card number is just the card number without the number sign in front of it, or the pound sign in front of it. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. The other properties, so essentially, so that's the main stuff. Now we get into, right. So this is where things start to get interesting, sort of. But we would have added all of our cards and got through that. And so now we want to, I'm sort of worried about them potentially banning my IP address, because, so something I'm going to have to add to this is like a sleep command, so that way I'm not making too many requests to their server in a short period of time, because they could actually block my IP address if they think that I'm trying to hack their site or do something that people shouldn't normally be doing. And that's one thing that if you're writing code like this where you're querying other people's websites, that's stuff you have to actually take into consideration, is will they consider it spam, and can they block you from making requests to their site. And yes, absolutely, they can block you from making requests to their site. And so if you're using, so like your IP address is effectively, when you're making requests to websites, is coming from your router. So don't think that if you change the IP address of your local computer that that's going to be enough to work around the fact that a web host may have blocked you. You would actually have to find a way to get your public IP address of your router changed, and that would have to be done through your internet service provider, if they even can do that for you, which I'm sure they can, but then they would probably be asking, why do you need me to change your public IP address? You might even be able to do that yourself on your router. I'm not 100% certain, though. I almost think not. But anyways, so you need to be very careful, ultimately, is what it comes down to. So actually, what I think I'm going to do, system, I'm going to show you for threading.sleep. Thread.sleep. So 10,000 milliseconds, which is 10 seconds. So I can throw in a sleep command here. Now, the one thing about something like this, though, is that when you are working with Windows Forms apps, you do not normally do this. There's a proper way to handle this, but for the sake of what I'm using this for and the fact that I know that this is just how things work. So in a Windows form, if you put a sleep command on the same thread that your Windows form is running on, when the thread is sleeping, your Windows form will become inactive. So if you try to click on it or move it around or do anything with it, it will not respond while it's executing the sleep command. Once the sleep command is executed, it will return control back to you to be able to do what you want. So that's pretty neat. But that is just something to keep in mind. So now, but basically, so what we're going to do is it's going to go ahead and it's going to go through and iterate through as many times as it needs to. It's going to sleep for 10 seconds between each call. So that way Beckett doesn't think that I'm hacking them. And that's a reasonable amount of time, I think, where I would be scrolling down on the website instead of doing things this way. And so it'll sleep for 10 seconds. And actually, if I want, 5 seconds is probably more than enough. So we'll do that. We'll do 5 seconds. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this. This has no meaning whatsoever, but this will allow us to set a breakpoint here. So I'm gonna let it loop through and add everything. I'm not gonna have any breakpoints anywhere else except for here, so that way we can see what our list of cards is gonna look like once we iterate through this form. So let's go ahead and add this one. And actually, so you guys can see what happens. So notice, so I click get data. Now, as you can see, my form is going to be unresponsive because it's basically going to sleep, which is unfortunate, but that is the way that the code is written. So it will keep hitting the sleep command. Every time it hits that sleep command, the thread of the form will be locked. You can't even maximize it either. Sometimes you might, if you click on it and you wait long enough, then it might eventually pop up, but it only will pop up if once the thread stops sleeping. And so that is the problem with Windows, or that is a thing that you have to worry about with Windows Forms when you're writing code for Windows Forms. So this is currently, you wish you had a sleep command, you're getting 2 hours of sleep some nights. What? Bro, that's not cool. So we're basically just waiting for this to return. So this thing has got to iterate 14 times. So what's 5 seconds times 14? About a minute? No, it's got to be more than that, right? No, because 12 times 5 is 60. So it would be a little over a minute. for this thing to finish executing. Now, granted, that doesn't include the time it takes for it to actually make the request to the server, but essentially that's how long we're going to be waiting before this thing actually returns back control. So there we go. Okay, so now we're back. So see, we did finally hit it, and it was about a minute essentially. So now if we go over look at our cards, we have 260 cards in our set, and that is how many? Wait, no. So something's wrong here. We should have 275 actually. So something's wrong with the loop logic here. But as you can tell, oh, see, you see this? We're gonna see. This is where we're gonna have problems. See the card name? It says Mercedes Lewis rookie card. So, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Is that there may not be a way to do this appropriately. We'll have to see. There might be a different way to set the card name that's more practical. But for now, we're just gonna have to deal with that. But so it did return to control, but we did see we have some logic issues. So I guess the request count should have been 0 through 14. I guess I did need to make another request. Why did I always think I didn't? So I guess I need to do that. I'm trying to think, why did that make sense? I don't know. I felt like that should have made sense, but so 0 through 13, that would be 14 requests. I guess I'm trying to figure out why that wouldn't be enough requests. Either way, it didn't give us all our cards, so that's definitely the logic that was missing there. So we needed to make sure it looped one more time for our offset. But as we can tell, it seems like everything is working appropriately with our cards, and so we do have some options now. So card quality, we can actually, so we need to customize this. Edit columns, card quality. So data property. Okay. My mom just got attacked by your dog. She was using her phone in the bed, and he jumped on her and started licking her face, and her mouth was open. She's been brushing her teeth for 5 minutes. Wait, what? Oh, I thought you meant like actually like attacked her. You just said she just started licking her face. I'm like thinking like, okay, the dog attacked the mom, and now she's brushing her teeth. Like, what kind of story is this, bruh? Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Yeah, you did mislead me. You definitely did. Okay. We're going to have to figure this out. So I don't want these things anymore, actually. So I definitely do not want these values set here. So we're gonna not do anything with this for now, although this may end up causing an issue. Data property name. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's fine. So what's up, Tyrod? So we're gonna go ahead and do some things here. So false value. Oh, intermediate. What the heck? What? Okay. Card number. Okay, so we're gonna do some things here. So data property name is card number. Okay, so this is gonna be useful for binding data to this grid. We're gonna have to do that next. So I want to try this. Let's see what we can do with what we have. So once we get the list of cards, then we need to bind them to this grid. So we have a data grid of items. So data grid items dot data source equals cards. So this actually, I think you have to do it this way. Data member gets this. Yes, or says the name of the list of the table of data source. Yes. So wait. No. We already set the data member property. So in theory, just by doing this, that should get us what we want. So, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to just 1. So that way we don't spend so much time looping. And we're going to set our breakpoint here. All right, so let's see how this works. I don't know if this is going to work or not. All right, so we're going to get the data here, and let's see if this thing dies or not. It shouldn't loop that much. Oh, because it's got to sleep for 5 seconds, actually, anyway. So at the most, it should only sleep for 5 seconds. So I'm going to put a breakpoint on that thing. Okay, why is this thing taking so long? It shouldn't sleep more than 5 seconds. Oh. Yeah, so it already failed, actually. So, data grid view default error. The following exception occurred in data grid view. System argument data grid combo box cell value is not valid. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. So, oh god. Okay, it's going to give me this 20 times. Should only be 20 times, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So it is freaking out about this. So actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to actually remove that so it stops. It doesn't bind anything to card quality. So that was our mistake. That's fine. This one should work and should be fine now because it shouldn't be trying to bind anything to card quality. This is going to be cool once this decides to work. Right? So data source, and we see our data source is cards. We have the 20 cards in there. Yeah. So now it's been bound. So, oh, I have to actually... And there you go. So we did start somewhere. Player name. So we have to change the property that is binding to must be wrong. So as you can tell, though, we do have card numbers in here now. So as you can tell, we do actually have the card numbers bound. Now we have player images and stuff like that. And like we can bind to our do we have it property and stuff? We've got that. But the player name, all this stuff has not been. Oh crap! That's not what it was supposed to do. So that's kind of problematic. It should not be doing this. Yeah. So as you can see, we kind of have an issue here. That's interesting. It did bind the because there's no place for it to bind that data. That's why. So it just added the columns because we don't have a property match on those. So we'll get all that figured out. That's weird. Okay. So we can actually turn that off, I believe. Data grid items dot add, allow a user to add. There's some way that I believe you can prevent that from happening. Yeah, we don't want to do that. There's like I swear, there's like a auto generate columns or something like. Auto generated columns equals false. I was gonna say, okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now it shouldn't add any columns that we don't already have in there. So have data property. Oh, so we don't have, because we didn't have card, because we don't have that bound to anything. So we have, so the where this is coming from is in our card class. So have card, if you can tell, like the name, we're binding based on these names: card number, card name, blah blah blah. That is what we are binding to in this grid. So that's where I'm coming up with these names. So have is just a checkbox, but the property it's binding to in the class is called have card. The card number, same thing. Player name is actually card name. So, I mean, player name, card name, again, we're kind of using this as like something that displays up here, but then it's different in the thing. That doesn't matter, though. So we're fine with that. So we've got those things bound. And let's try it with just this. Oops. So now we should see that... actually, we're just going to remove breakpoints. We don't really need the breakpoint now. So we'll see that once it populates our data here, remember, we're gonna have an automatic 5-second delay. There we go. Okay, so now it didn't add any of those columns, right? So for the ones that aren't bound to anything, it's not going to add them anywhere. And so the have is automatically unchecked because, again, that's the default. But if I were to check that, then that's cool. We have to change this so you can't actually modify any of these values. But the point is that now we have our top 20. And if I open that up to pull in all the cards, then we would have all 275 cards listed with the card number and the player name. So the next thing we need to do is, so I'm trying to think. How? Oh yeah, duh. So we need to fix this. I'm trying to think. So you can set the data source for that field. But I'm trying to think how you would even do that. Do we have a form load? Oh yeah, we do. Okay. Data grid items dot card quality. Wait. Right. Is data bound? So I can't set the data source. Because this is the name data source property or database column to which the data grid view column is bound. Yeah, but what? I need to Google this. So this is where Google comes into play sometimes. So C# programmatically bind grid column combo box. Whoa. Okay. So then to a list of elements. It's not a member of element. So your column item source to Oh. Oh, well that's no. Okay. So there's supposed to be so then what? Column that's not even what? Okay, that's not even like a thing though. The Ooh, that's kind of weird. Okay, so that's not helping me. So I can't think of. All right, bind and show a combo box on a data grid. Okay, here we go. So that's exactly what I want. Add a few blank rows to start with, whatever. Yeah, okay. Oh my god, that's way too much code. What is this? Oh, you want to control the keystrokes. I just want, like, when they add a new row, like, it should just, like. Yeah, something's not right. I just want it so that, like, when I go to do something with a column, it will dynamically using a combo box column in a generated data grid. Yeah. Auto generating column. Oh, okay. Okay. So there is a an event auto generating column. Whoa, wait. It's not a column added though. Ooh. It's not an auto generating column though. Like, it's almost like when it's binding. Well, yeah, when I'm binding data to it, I guess. Row data bound or something like that. I don't know. Like, that seems weird, but that could be. Row added, like. Rows added. Wait, when one or more rows are added? Row. Ooh. Row validated. I mean, what? See, I don't like that. Yeah, this is gonna be. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I know what I want to do. I just don't know how I want to do it. It's almost like data binding complete. I mean, I guess, but that just seems kind of hacky. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to do this. I mean, I guess I can create a data source um and just do it that way, I guess. I mean, that may be the only way I can do it. That's clean. Data source. So like if I do this, add project data source, an object, let you choose objects and be later used to bound to controls. Oh yeah, okay. Right. So I could just do, well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. This is gonna be a problem. So I can just add the stuff in here manually, but I'm trying to like, dynamically populate that when based on my yeah, I don't know what I just did there. Oh gosh, Whitey, don't do that, bro. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You're not allowed to use that. No way, bro. No. All right. I think this may be a good stopping point. Um, don't leave. I've been streaming for 2 hours. I didn't realize it was 2 hours already. I need to like try to actually get something done today. Like, I mean, this is something positive. It's something cool. But it's not gonna like change anything in my life that much. I mean, maybe a little, but like, I want to see what it looks like with a full thing of cards. Let's see what happens. We can get rid of this. So I feel like I need to do something with the grid. So I'm not sure exactly what I need to do with this code just yet, but it's something to the extent of I may have to put like in an event here that when the rows are added, because it says it's when one or more rows are added to the rows collection. So I mean, it's basically like it's almost like after I add. See, that's just it's just so quirky. It doesn't make any sense. It's so quirky. Like it just fudge. There's got to be a way to do it. There's got to be. I mean, there is in a sense, but like I'm not sure how so if it allows you to set the data source to that of a class, then how come I guess I'm kind of confused on why I can't how do I programmatically set the data source of this thing? Cuz everything I've seen is like these people like how to add a value to a JGrid view. Copy the code to form what the bind and show a combo box in data group cell using C#. Okay, never. Any tell me here are 3 columns. Name city. I want to show multiple how to buy. Control click. What is this? Oh. So, oh, you know what? Okay. That would be weird, but I guess this actually work? So, right. So here is but these are private, so I couldn't technically access these, right? This dot price poor. So there's this dot card quality. So would this oh my god, okay. Yes. That's will work. Enums. Wait, what? Public enum. Okay. So I may need to end up changing. I may need to end up changing the name of that. But this is not gonna help because Right. So I either need to put that in a different namespace or something. Enums dot. So that's what I don't understand. Because you don't instantiate an enum, so why the hell can't I access this? Yeah, that's why I don't understand. What the heck? Alright, so let's try this. That's probably not going to work. That's what I figured. Let's qualize the type. Yeah, so that's oh. I see. So that's, but now I don't know what the properties of that are going to be. Yeah, this is going to have to be like a little bit more complicated, I guess, than this. So like I can pull in the values, but then I don't know how to bind it. But this is effectively what I have to do. So like, yeah, so this will work in a sense, but I need to do something different. I feel like I'm probably just gonna end up writing something that just iterates through the list, the enum values, and then I have to have that code that I found to pull out the description, so that can be what's displayed, and yeah, that's gonna have to end up being what I do for that. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to stop here. We'll have to figure that out later. So all right, guys, thank you for everyone who stopped by today. Appreciate it very much. I'm not gonna do closing time today, so I just need to get out of here, do something before I'm getting antsy. I'm getting antsy, bruh. All right, guys. Thank you again for all your support. I appreciate it. And till next time, guys. Bye-bye.